This elderly man was sitting quietly in his living room when he suddenly heard a loud, piercing cry. He rushed to the window and saw a little girl in the next house crouching on the ground, clutching her stomach. He could tell she was in a lot of pain. Why wasn't anyone coming out to help her? The old man wondered as he flung his door open and rushed to the girl's house. Within a few minutes, he would discover something terrible. For some people, the city in which they live symbolizes fulfillment and happiness. For others, it can spell terror or grief. For Alexei, Chernobyl spelled happiness. It was the place where he had found true love, his wife Anya, and where he planned to spend the rest of his life with her. Anya felt the same way about the city too. She loved the serene atmosphere, the friendly nature of its citizens, the culture, and the food. So the couple made plans. They would give birth to all their children and raise them here, then grow old together and die here in Chernobyl. But sadly, one by one, life and the city itself would take away everything they held dear, leaving them heartbroken and hopeless. And it all started in 1986, during the Chernobyl disaster. On April 25, 1986, routine maintenance was scheduled at the V.I. Lenin nuclear power station's fourth reactor, and workers planned to use the downtime to test whether the reactor could still be cooled if the plant lost power. During the test, workers violated several safety protocols, and power surged inside the plant. Despite attempts to shut down the reactor entirely, another power surge caused a chain reaction of explosions inside. Finally, the nuclear core itself went out of control, leading to an explosion and fire that demolished the reactor building and released large amounts of radiation into the atmosphere. The incident claimed the lives of several workers and left many people sick. People exposed to the radiation began to experience high anxiety levels, and their health began to deteriorate. Worse yet, many people lost their source of income, and the city suffered a massive exile and economic decline. It was at this point that Chernobyl began to feel like a place of terror to the couple, who were also exposed to the radiation, but luckily, their health got better with time. Unfortunately, though, they lost friends to the incident, and Anya's father, who was exposed to the radiation, was hospitalized, and no one knew if he would ever make it out alive. A year after this sad incident, the couple discovered they were expecting a child, and in due time, Anya gave birth to a beautiful girl, Daria. The little girl was a happy child. She smiled a lot, had a great appetite, and was quite healthy. So why did things eventually go wrong? Why did she fall so ill that her belly began to protrude? You see, Daria was like the rainbow that came up after the storm. Amid her parents' trials and pains, she was the only reason they believed in a beautiful and better future. Yes, Alexei and his wife were happy after Daria's birth, but not for long. With each passing day, the couple began to grow tired of their lives in Chernobyl. They wanted to start their lives elsewhere, but the beautiful memories they had created held them back. However, when Alexei lost his job and couldn't get another one, they knew it was time to leave. We have nothing to do here anymore. Everything is gone. The job, our savings, our zeal. It's all gone. We need to leave and search for greener pastures elsewhere, Alexei told Anya. Within a few months, the couple made all the necessary preparations and moved to the U.S., hoping for a better life. Anya also left her father, who was still recuperating behind, but they promised to come for him later. Sadly, something tragic would happen soon, and Alexei would regret their choice to leave for the U.S. Life in the United States wasn't as easy as the couple had imagined. It was hard getting a job because they didn't have the necessary papers, so Alexei did some menial jobs for the neighbors. Although they lived from hand to mouth, the family was happy. But soon, the devil would rear its ugly head. While abroad, Anya continued communicating with her dad. She would call him at least once a week and send letters to him, but all of a sudden, she fell sick and could barely reach out to him. She didn't tell her dad about her health because she didn't want him to worry about her. With each passing day, Anya's condition worsened, but she continued fighting for her life. The thought of leaving her daughter behind crushed her. "I'm fighting to stay alive for you. We will grow up together, and I will be right beside you on your wedding day, I promise." Anya told her daughter on her sick bed one night. Unfortunately, she would never get the chance to fulfill this promise. A few months later, Anya passed away. Alexei's heart was shattered into a million pieces after his wife's death, and he really didn't think he could carry on without her. But then there was little Daria, who was looking up to him, so he knew he had to stay strong for her. As the years passed, Alexei and Daria's love for each other grew stronger. By then, Alexei had also managed to get a job, and even though they weren't rich, he could give her anything she wanted. Maybe coming to the US wasn't so bad after all. Maybe God had a reason for all the bad things that befell us, Alexei thought. Sadly, another tragedy would soon befall this family. Alexei was at work one day when he suddenly got a call from Daria's school that she was sick. He left everything he was doing and rushed down there. Wasting no time, he took the little girl to the hospital, but the doctors only administered some pain relief and told him that she would be fine. How wrong they were. As the days passed, Daria's belly began to protrude. Sadly, Alexei didn't have enough money to take her to a standard hospital, and the little girl's condition began to deteriorate. The local doctor only administered drugs to relieve the pain and reduce the swelling. No one knew the cause of her swollen belly. The reason behind it is quite terrible and devastating. Refusing to give up on his daughter, Alexei started working extra jobs, which meant Daria was always at home all by herself. She would lie on the floor, scream, and cry all day. The neighbors were already used to hearing Daria's piercing screams, but they just went about their daily activities. But that was the case until an old man in his mid-60s moved into the neighborhood. The day after he settled there, the man was deep in his thoughts when he suddenly heard Daria screaming. He sprang to his feet and rushed down to the little girl's house. The door was open, so he went in, knelt beside the little girl, and said, "I know you're in so much pain. You will be fine, I promise." The little girl managed to tell him about how her father had begun struggling to save up some money so he could take her to the hospital for proper treatment. Although he had no money himself, the old man decided to take the little girl to the hospital, hoping for a miracle. Maybe God would send a helper this way. When Alexei returned home, he almost went nuts when he couldn't find his daughter at home. But as soon as the neighbors told him that an old man had rushed her to the hospital, he went to the health center immediately. Alexei couldn't believe his eyes when he saw a familiar figure in the hospital's waiting area. It was Pavlo, Anya's father, and little Daria was resting her head on his lap. As soon as the men saw each other, they hugged while fighting back their tears. Pavlo had brought Daria to the hospital out of the goodness of his heart. He didn't know she was his granddaughter, so you can imagine how happy he was when he learned the truth. You see, the old man had eventually recovered and had decided to travel to the United States to search for his daughter since he had stopped receiving her letters. Somehow, he had ended up moving in next door. Pavlo was devastated to learn that his daughter had passed away, and he promised that he would save his granddaughter at all costs. When Alexei told Pavlo all the symptoms that Daria was exhibiting, he knew exactly what was wrong. You see, while in the hospital, Pavlo saw many other children who were exhibiting the same symptoms because of the radiation they were exposed to during the Chernobyl disaster. The men quickly told the health staff about their presumption, and the doctors decided to carry out the necessary tests. Soon enough, they would learn something terrifying. About 30 minutes later, the results confirmed that Pavlo was right. The tests showed that Daria had an enlarged uterus because of the radiation she was exposed to shortly after her birth. Fortunately for her, the doctors were eager to help and informed the family that all victims of the Chernobyl disaster were entitled to free treatment in the United States. That same day, Daria was wheeled into the operating room and received the necessary care. Sadly, her uterus had to be removed, meaning she would never be able to conceive naturally. Despite her young age, Daria didn't let this setback weigh her down. She was grateful to her family and doctors for giving her a second chance at life. The Chernobyl nuclear disaster of April 26, 1986, is predicted to continue harming the environment for at least 180 years. I'm really keen to know your thoughts on this story, so please don't hesitate to share your insights in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video and found it engaging, I invite you to subscribe to our channel for more similar content. Feel free to share this video with your friends and family. Take good care of yourselves, and I'm excited to connect with you in our future videos.